it's your girl Dee from That's Just TMI. I'm here with Sergey and Tiffany, and we're going to talk about our government. As you know, we live in Ontario, Canada. We're going to talk about how the government has impacted our small businesses. Specifically, as you guys know, if you don't know, I'm going to put the link up top to Tiffany's video because she owns her very own small business that has been impacted because of COVID. So let's get into the topic. Mm-hmm. Who wants to go first? Because I don't really know much about it.
So, but
okay, I'll tell you what I know. I guess I'll
tell me what you know. Like, what do you want us to start with? Because
okay, you're right. So let me tell the people what I know. So right now within Canada, we have a stay-at-home order. Mm-hmm. So most of the businesses, if not all of the businesses, I'm gonna say it generally, they're pretty much closed. We have Walmart, Costco, like the no frills. You need your groceries. So those
shoppers, any place that has food,
essential services.
Yeah, those places
are not essential. Whoa!
But the people look rough.
Yeah, but that's because of how some people have been on the road pre-pandemic. Yeah, take that one to the bank.
So let's dive into that.
Yes, please.
What were they looking before the pandemic, Sergey?
No. So here's the thing, right? Because here we are. We're here to talk about small businesses and the impact of the pandemic. Look, the reality is, I would just love to really fully grasp and understand and comprehend how the government has concluded what is essential and what is not. Right. Now let me explain this as we're going to jump right into this. There are some of these major corporations that are selling the same products that the mom and pop shops sell.
Yeah.
So if the product is in Costco or in Shoppers Drug or whatever, then I don't see why some of these businesses shouldn't still be able to open, perhaps with like some type of a modified schedule or modified resources. I don't fully understand. Now, the other part to this, and I don't know if we're going to go all the way in on this conversation, is I think that if the virus is going to spread, I feel like it would be spreading faster in Costco than it would in Tiffany's shop.
Well, it's true because I actually went to Costco earlier this week, and the amount of people, like, I know, the directional lines and everything, but within that one aisle, the amount
of lines, though.
Nobody's following the lines because I'm not going to go all the way around.
I need the product.
Yeah.
And first of all, we've seen how you used to color as a child, Tiffany, so there's no way that you're following the lines anyways. So just big up to crayons or Crayola.
Yes, this is true. And not the Tiffany coloring part. The fact that we're not following
really good as a colorist.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. And let's talk a little bit about this because again, we're not in the room when they make the decisions. But part of this thing is I think it's an extension to what we've been talking about around anti-Black racism. It's a systemic issue. And even as we look at the impact of what it means to close down small businesses that may not generate the same kind of revenue, the end is still exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Right? So a lot of these businesses that have been forced to close down, first of all, they never owned the business to start with. Right? So a lot of them don't own their businesses, right? So like a lot of these storefronts, right? Somebody owns the building and they're renting a space out of the spot, right? That's what I mean. I'm not saying that they don't own their business or the service that they provide for their clients. I'm saying, generally speaking, they may not actually own the actual business. We're talking about Black and brown people. So now most people, regardless, are living from hand to mouth, foot to mouth, however you want to call it, one check away from being homeless. Right. So now when you shut it down and you haven't necessarily sent a large enough stimulus package to compensate that, what do we expect is happening in these black and brown homes. So I know we're supposed to be talking a little bit about business, but for me as a pastor and one who's been sitting back and listening to a lot of the conversations, listening to what members are saying in terms of the struggle, the longer we go with this thing, here we are again.
Mhm.
Big business, which is generally not owned by us, are continuing to thrive because people that would not have gone to Costco are now going to Costco because Tiffany's store is not open right now.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in here. I feel like, yeah, you're totally correct. Also, there's like this thing that happened last year where the poor got poorer, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And the rich got richer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were able to capitalize, then you were able to capitalize. And if
Yeah.
you were able to live week to week with that check, then
Mm-hmm.
you were able to live week to week. What I didn't understand was, I mean, it was a good thing, but it was a weird thing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
putting off rent,
Mm.
putting off other things that you might have to pay for. I didn't get that because at the end of the day, you still have to pay for them and they're still going to add interest on it and they're still going to tax you. So you're still going to be in a kerfuffle,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're still going to have
Mm-hmm.
an issue unless you were able to leverage last year. And thank God I was able to leverage last year. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's many businesses that have been closed. And because the businesses are closed, therefore the people, then you're talking about the black and brown people, they're also affected. They may have been working in those small businesses. What doesn't make sense to me is having them open when the smaller ones you're more able to see or pinpoint who got COVID or who doesn't have COVID or
Right.
who is coming through. But the bigger
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
businesses, it's a little bit trickier. And so the stay home state of emergency is a state of crap. Um, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that.
Well,
I think it's nonsense. I do think it's
Mm-hmm.
nonsense because it's like we're not the ones, pushing around COVID and stuff. We're not. And so there are a couple salons that people did contract it from. I feel because prior to COVID, they were probably not as cleanly as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going into a barber shop, and I've seen this multiple times, and you don't have a neck strip, that's nasty. If you're going into a hair salon and you don't have a neck strip, or you don't know that the towels have been washed and the capes have been washed and they are using barbicide to clean their tools, you were nasty before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
it's true.
So
Can I add one more thing to what you've said then too, Tiffany as well?
mhm.
Um, Credit, right? So before we get into all of the little differences there, nuances, credit is also impacted by all of this, right? So when I hear you talking about rent, if you're behind on your rent and you've actually taken out a contract, people have the ability to report to the credit bureau if you are behind in your rent. Now,
Mhm.
if you're behind in your rent, more than likely you're also behind in your phone bill, your utilities, your whatever. And the truth is, even though the government has asked for people to be a little bit more easy in trying to enforce collecting these monies, I haven't heard. And again, if it's out there and I didn't hear it, then I can apologize.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But really and truly, what difference does it make? Because if I shut down my business and I try to reopen it, somebody's going to pull the credit bureau and see that I have an R3 or an R5 or maybe an R9 because I was already behind. Because remember, this thing started really in February of
Yeah.
2020. A year is a long time to be missing your payments
Mhm.
for anything.
Well, yes. And then
Yeah.
it's the amount, right? Because people
Yeah.
were getting paid. So what I was making before, I'm not going to disclose, but
Yeah.
it's not the 2000 or the 900 or whatever that the government is giving. That's not
That
it.
that was my next question. I was going to ask. So, what has the government done in terms of compensating? I guess, for lack of a better term, those small businesses to assist them during this hard time.
So there is a sorry about that. There is a loan that the government was giving out. First, it was 40,000, and you could, I think, 10,000 is you don't have to pay it back.
Oh.
Then they pushed it to 60,000 later on, and if 20,000 is, I guess, I think they call it regrettable, or you don't have to pay that back. Forgivable. It's
Yes.
forgivable. So you basically have 40,000 to give back to the government. So that's one. There have been multiple grants that you can partner with CASA, you can partner with the BBPA, and there's some other companies out there that will help you get grants for your company.
Tell us who's CASA. We don't know who the CASA is or
I actually
BBPA.
forgot
Oh, okay.
the
All right, cool.
actual name, but I know the acronym is CASA.
Yeah.
And then for those who don't know, the BBPA, that's the Black Business Professional Association, I believe. And so yeah, thank God I have a friend who really keeps me clued in with what's happening with the grants and stuff that you can apply for. I know my friend, she just applied for a grant and she got 10,000 easy. And
Nice.
it's a little bit easier. What I would really want business owners to do is do your research and stay on top. That's the only way your business is really going to leverage, and make sure you know a good CPA, a good accountant.
That's true.
Because of the accountant that I used last year, my business is still doing great. And I'm doing great, But for those who aren't exposed, I do feel sorry for them. You need to be connected with somebody.
Yeah, but you know what? If I can say this to you, Tiffany, and thanks, the information is great, especially for small business owners, people who may not have known all of this. Here's the reality. Most people probably don't have the best accountant. Like, let's just be honest.
Some don't even have
Is that an excuse though?
No.
No, we're not talking about whether or not it's a legitimate excuse. We're talking about what is. Right? So one of the things that I can say, if that's okay with you, is you're probably ahead of the curve because of the type of network that you come out of, right? So our viewers may not.
That I've worked myself into. I don't forget, the cheese is standing alone.
Well, let me explain to you what I mean.
I don't have a group of people. I don't have someone knocking on my door and saying, Tiffany, it's time to go out to another hair class. It's time to go out to another conference in Atlanta. Tiffany, it's time to upgrade your scissors. Tiffany, no.
Okay, but here's what but that's not what I'm referencing though, right? What I'm referencing is your network in terms of the type of people that you have in your world that would not allow you to sit down on your hands and your feet and allow this pandemic to suck you dry. So I'm not saying that they're doing all of the work that you have to do to make sure that you're financially there. But this is where I feel like the church network, your family and friends network, having a good base around you holds you accountable and makes sure that you don't fail. Right. So a lot of times when we look at these mom and pop shops, right, and we use that term, and I almost want to say that it's a little bit derogatory, because when we say mom and pop shops, when those signs go up for vacancy, it's almost like we don't miss them because they weren't reputable businesses. But we know this, that in the Black and brown communities, a lot of individuals that are doing the hustle, the business for self, they're doing that because they can make more money in business for self than doing some data entry at minimum wage when they've got all of these different things that they have to do. So therefore, I often wonder what it looks like when a pandemic or when the economy changes, what that looks like for them, because now instead of them having the same resources that we might have because of our church, our family, our friends, we grew up in the system, we understand that there's money and grants and so on and so forth. As simple as it may seem for you to turn to your CPA people don't always have that understanding because they don't have the same access to information. Go
I
ahead,
un-
Tiff.
I
Hmm.
understand that.
Yeah.
However, this this whole pandemic for creatives, for owners, um, you really had to have that state of mind of pivoting.
Hmm.
You need to be able, and that's where I think like some of the differences between some of the shops that close. Okay, you honestly cannot do anything. You have a storefront
Mhm.
and you have to pay the rent even though you're not using it, right? There's some situations that you can't really change, but there are situations where you have to look and see how can you pivot your business.
Mhm.
And that doesn't take your friend, that doesn't take your uncle, that doesn't take your church member. That takes you as a business owner wanting to keep your business alive,
Yeah.
right? What are you doing to help keep your business alive? And what can you do? So for me, last year, thank God that happened, that's done. Now it's this year, and I'm in a state of pivot. This is the pivot point. And so it's like, okay, what is going to bring consistency to me? Can I even live? Questions like, can I live off of Tiffany Dawn Inc., or do I need another source of income? Can, if the grants don't come through, if the
Mhm.
loans don't come through, what can I do as an individual? So I don't think that takes outside thinking and outside encouragement. That takes you as a business owner. And if you are a true business owner, then you would have really had that in you. That those thoughts and that determination is innate in you.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to tag off of that pivot point, I know a lot of storefronts that actually had to move to online shopping. So
Mm.
that's one of the pivots that I know that I've seen, because a lot of stores, I mean, over the past couple of years, we've seen that online shopping has become more and more popular.
Mhm.
There were
right.
still certain stores where you literally had to go to the building to buy something. And it was kind of annoying because I'm like, why don't you have anything online? That was their pivot. Like shutting
Mhm.
down and having to close that door was a pivot
Mhm.
for a lot of stores.
Mhm.
And
Curbside
like
pickup.
curbside pickup is another good pivot point where you're like, I still need to make money. I can't survive on the government grants. And if you're allowed to, based on whatever industry you're in, if you
Yeah.
can do those things, that's your pivot point. And I think that's what Tiffany's saying, where if you're a business owner within yourself, you're going to try and push and try and figure out, what can I do to keep this business afloat? Like, I genuinely love this, and I'm not trying to go do a 9 to 5 type of a thing.
So you know what? I don't disagree with the point, but maybe I also want to put another angle on this thing, right? And of course, everybody's situation is always a little bit different, uniquely different.
Mhm.
So I look and Tiffany, you don't have the same responsibility as somebody who has a family, husband, wife, children, extracurricular things that they may have to do above and beyond their business,
Mhm.
coming home and preparing meals, laundry, you name it. I mean, the list, we know what the list is, right? We're all old enough to understand some of the responsibilities that come along with it. I think that there's a different stress level for somebody who does not have. And when I was talking about support, I may have even missed some, right? So there are some business owners who are living at home who, even if they can't afford the rent for whatever, or wherever they're living, there's not an added expense without the income that is also coming. So when I look at the different scenarios to which people are living with, I have maybe to some degree, and I'm not saying that you guys are not sensitive to that, because the reality is you can either stand and live or sit down and die, right? I mean, that is the reality, but some of the nuances are the mental health that comes behind this.
Right.
Like, think about what this looked like at Christmas for some of these businesses who are thriving, the people that work for them, right? Normally they would have gotten a Christmas bonus so that they can get some extra gifts for the kids, whatever. Think about what this looks like for the man who's the primary breadwinner for his home. And perhaps he comes from a culture where men are supposed to be able to do this thing and take care of the family. And for the first time in 10 years, 15, 20 years, this year, he's like, yo, man, we can't even have Kool-Aid with the meal. It's water and a little bit of rice and some butter on top, and you can sprinkle some clove, whatever not, to kind of give it a nuanced flavor. The reality, though, is that I think that for most business owners, there's a lot more than just the bottom line of what the income is not as a result of the doors closing. So even as we're talking about the work that you do, Tiffany, it's in the area of hair and skincare and some of those other things. I've driven past a couple of barbershops that were there for years, and by the time we got to fall, like September, they're gone. And those were like staples in the community. And so when I see that there are some, and I'm not endorsing illegal behavior, can I just say this? Because I know that,
I know
people.
I was about to say what you're just gonna say now. So go ahead.
But I understand why for some they either chose to close down, and I don't know where they are. So I'm not sure. I'm not saying that people are now going into people's houses for haircuts or they have like some kind of backdoor dealing. I don't know what people are doing, to be completely honest with you. But I don't know that the government has given the best support to the people who actually drive the economy. Costco does not drive the economy. Shoppers Drug Mart does not drive the economy. It's all of these different stores, T-shirts and combs and lip gloss and all of those little things that you take for granted until you're on the road and you're like, oh, I can't go to work with a dry lip. Then you're like, stop right there. And when you stop right there, that store, that store is not open right now. And the reality is that when those people who are in business for self are able to take care of themselves, they are less of a drain on the overall economy. Because here's the thing. When the government cuts the checks and says, here, have it, there's an assumption that they're going to get it back either from property tax or some of these other places, or there'll be something that stimulates the economy that allows people through the taxes that they have to pay, whether CPP and some of these other things that we see on our deductions. But if they're not working.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This goes back to the, I guess, the grants and or the loans that the government offers. And I guess my burning question stems from my experience with student loans, which is just not a fun place to be. So I'm wondering if that's how it is in terms of, is there like okay, we've given you this 60,000, and if you guys don't know, you can just say something, we can research it later, but we've given you this $40,000 or $60,000, and now that, let's say for argument's sake, God forbid, but at the end of 2021, we're still like in this situation. Mm-hmm. At what point will they be like, you've used my money, give me back? Like, because the economy wouldn't have changed. So like, what's going to happen? Is that when they're going to be like, okay, here's more money? And
well, I feel like they are expecting you to split the half of cracker into 15 places.
Okay.
And that should be able to get you the minimum payment on something.
Yeah.
Usually minimum payments are like $10, $15, $20, right? So I feel like that's the corner that they force people into.
Here's a question. I don't know. And again, we can maybe research this and come back at this conversation again. But I also wonder if big businesses that are thriving during this pandemic, I wonder if there's an increase on taxes that they may have to pay. Because like at the end of the day, and I'm sure the answer is no, right? So I'm asking a question that you can go ahead and check. But you see, here's, like I said, the challenge earlier in our conversation. Costco was already thriving before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because we know that we can go there and get toilet paper and paper towel and all of these different things that have nothing to do with the pandemic, they're still selling it. And the price of the product has gone up because I'm certain that to produce the product, that has gone up. And then, of course, because everybody knows that if you want to go to one place and get all of what you want, you go to that place, and that place. I feel like it's unreasonable for them to now have that much more millions of dollars of revenue that would have come to
Right.
perhaps Tiffany if she sold a similar product. Go ahead, Tiffany. I think you searched something.
Yeah. So this is from last March 30th, 2020. And this is from the website, theconversation.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, biggest companies pay the least tax, leaving society more vulnerable to pandemic. And this is a new research, but yeah, the tax rates, like, they're not paying a lot of tax.
And I hear and I understand because really nobody starts a business to be running flatline, right? Like when you start a business, you're like, look, I want to be in the black big time. But I also feel like there's a relational piece during a pandemic where somebody has to say from the mountaintop, I am my brother's keeper,
Right.
right? And we know that big businesses, they make big money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they were to be taxed during this time to help offset and help the little guy that's down the street,
Right.
it still works out better at the end for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not here to get into the politics of how we disperse money. I don't know enough about how the economy works to really articulate on how they've come up with the decisions that they've made.
Do you think
But
they're
I,
just printing it? Like, let me get an HP printer and just print new money?
I don't know.
Because they're giving out a lot. They're giving out a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're probably putting a little bit more currency out there in the streets to encourage people. Because here's the other thing, right? We're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Right.
So even when we get some money from the government, because and here, this is the other conversation. Go ahead. Do you want me to say it?
No. I know what you're gonna say. Go there. Yeah,
I
go.
feel like I have a rebuttal already, but go ahead.
No, it's fine. But in the black community, we are not producers. We are spenders. That's what we do. We spend money.
Mostly. Not
Yeah, of course, mostly. I mean,
Well, yeah, but I have to cut you off.
okay, sure, cut me off. I don't mind.
I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic has forced people not to be that.
I disagree because
I
feel
disagree.
like-
Wow.
and me and Dre don't always agree.
No. Don't try to partner with her. Just let her take the licks right now because she's wrong. Don't make this about whether we agree or not. This one right here with the extra swirl because she's also promoting how good she can do her hair. She's wrong.
But I
Mhm.
believe
People spent more even though they didn't have more.
People are spending the same way.
they will spend the same way. They
They're spending the same way.
look at okay, and this is now I'm going into like our culture. Partner. People get partner, and the reason why they get their partner, their susu, they look at extra money, is to help them save. What they do with the money when they get their money?
Listen.
They it out on all the things that they.
How are you going to tell the
Not
world about
really,
this
Tiffany.
thing? This Susa thing is in the community. You're not supposed to be putting this on prime time. You know how much people are vexed with you right now because you're going to be talking about the Susu and the half a hand and the full hand?
They'll get over it.
So-
Well, they'll
But I'm
have
trying
to.
to. I'm trying to make a point. Like I know
Yeah.
for a fact that
hmm
if you're not very strong-willed,
hmm
you will revert back into your habits that you had before. So yeah, during COVID, you may have got a cut in your pay, or you may not be working, and you
Yeah.
had to survive off of $2,000, what they
Yeah.
were giving for CERB. I don't know if that's
Sure.
changed. But let's say tomorrow you get a call for your job to go back, and you were making 2,500. All of a sudden, you can no longer live off of 2,000 because now you have 2,500. Whereas maybe the three of us here on the screen may be like, okay, I can save 500.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm young, but I don't think that as a society we have that in our brain where we could be like, save
No.
that 500
Maybe
and
not as a society, but as an individual. And this is exactly what I'm talking
definitely.
about, the pivot. You cannot live your life the same because the future is so uncertain. It's
I have
so
a,
uncertain.
I agree, and I have a perfect example. Remember when we were first locked in and
Mhm.
we had to stay home, and then the
Mhm.
mall started to open up? What did the people do? They ran right back in the mall and started shopping.
Zoo. That's what it was. It
Black
was
people,
a zoo.
I'm different then
I seen
because
people who could hardly even walk sprinting through the malls.
and
Why are
this
you
is what
moving
I'm
so
saying.
quickly? Your
I
foot doesn't
believe
work.
the three of us on this screen may be different, but
yeah,
I can't speak for our entire community or even society because society as a whole, we are creatures of habit. They all ran up in there and you
Well,
spent money that you didn't have.
yeah,
And then
and then yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
Go.
No, I was just going to say, in addition to spending money that we don't have, we have a lot of people because spending and being in the malls and shopping and going to the movies is a part of how they've built their whole life around this market. People can't even stay at home. Like I'm watching people like that don't even like, I don't know, toboggan. They're tobogganing now just so that they can get out the house. And I'm like, look at you. You couldn't even get up the hill the first time, but you're on a toboggan because you're trying to like fill a void. Maybe here's the point that I'm making, that I don't know that enough is being done to help those that are being impacted, which are still marginalized groups of people, which are still black and brown people. And for me, that's the main thing, because at the end of the day, if we were already on the edge before,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard when you're living from check to check. And now with this pandemic, the person up the road who already has the privilege through systemic racism, they have not had to make any adjustments, right? They're not making the adjustment because look, they're working from home. They're still pulling their full pay. They still have their health benefits. They still have a private room when they go to the hospital if they catch the COVID. And this group, our group of people, we're still struggling. And now to make it even worse, when it comes now time to sit down at the dinner table, there's stuff that we're now eating because this is what we can afford. Or we have to make the decision to not pay for this because this is more pressing. And the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that's saving a lot of us is that in Canada, because we have winter, I don't think that it's the law that they can turn off the lights and the electricity and the water in the middle of winter because people would freeze. But if we look south of the border, where there are some states where it doesn't get that cold in the middle of the winter, we've heard it on the news where some of the governors or whoever it is, the government officials, they're saying, please slow down with the eviction rates because
Well,
people are like, where's my money?
yeah,
Um, what do you mean, where's my money? You know, I haven't worked for the last 8 months
there's no break.
because my
Very
business is closed.
mhm.
So, who is it that owns the places that are now saying, where's my money?
mm-hmm.
It's not us.
No. You know, this is such a good conversation, but we're going to stop it right here. We're going to leave you on a cliffhanger and we're going to continue this episode. Now, after you've watched this episode, if you have any comments, questions, any stories that you want to share about being the owner of a small business or any experiences you've had, share it in the comment below, the description comment section below. That's it. The comment
I would
section
actually
below.
like to hear from the small businesses that you guys featured last year. I would
Mm.
like to hear from them and see how they're doing and just get a little bit of an update. If we can get you guys to make your comments, put your comments in the message below, I think that'll be awesome. Because where
Yeah.
are they? Where are they now?
Well, one guy, I hope we can get him on. He's been playing his flute a lot on Facebook.
Lying. And the
Phenomenal.
thing is, Shan threw him out. She's like, you can't play here no more.
Yeah, no, he's been playing that flute, boy. So we should
Yeah,
start off
he's
with
still
him. Like, when did he start playing Keisha Cole's on his flute?
That is phenomenal. Yes, we
Yeah.
will contact those small businesses.
Yeah.
And until next time, guys, we are thought provoking,
Thought provoking,
motivational,
motivational,
inspirational.
inspirational.
Thanks for watching. That's Just TMI. Stay safe, be safe, make good choices. Goodbye.
Wear your mask and wash your hands.